the next speaker, Dr. Sunil Kapoor. Dr. Sunil Kapoor will speak on embolic protection devices in SVG intervention. Dr. Sunil Kapoor, please.
The topic given to me is the embolic protection devices which used in SVG grafts. SVG grafts, as you know, are a bane and a lot of problems, and we know that in an individual patient suddenly things can go wrong. One of the main problems, as you know, is a sudden no reflow phenomena, and then things go totally out of control. So because of that, SVG graft has remained a disease which requires extra effort and a lot of planning. Next slide, please. First slide. So as I said, because of this fear that sudden no reflow phenomena can occur. So because of this issue, I think just like when you get into an accident, so how do you prevent that? So I think just like the cars have airbags, I think embolic protection devices should be considered as airbags which are going to protect you against the no reflow phenomena. And that's the basis on which we work. And 2B3A agents, as I said, are like the seat belts, and your embolic protection devices are like your airbags. So it helps to protect in both the ways. Next slide, please. Yeah, what are the causes of no reflow phenomena and why it occurs? One is the atheroemboli, which are very common in a chronic SVG graft, because graft atherosclerosis is a phenomena and it also features thrombus. So there's not only atheroemboli, there's also thromboemboli. And what happens is that once you dislodge these, they form and plug the distal circulation, they cause spasm, they cause platelet aggregation. And we know that the mortality jumps up by about 5% if there is a no reflow phenomena. Next slide. Now, what is the patency? As you know, at 1 year, these are the occluded, the red ones, and these are the diseased grafts. At 1 year, you'll find that 19% of the grafts are occluded and 7% are diseased. At 5 years, 25% are occluded and 48% are diseased. And at 10 years, 40% are occluded and 77% are diseased. And that's a natural history. What we must know that from the time the patient comes out of the operation theater into the post-op ICCU, 8% of the SVG grafts close. Most of us have been hammered as interventional cardiologists that your stents keep closing, there is restenosis, there is a 2% thrombus and things like that. But 8% of the SVG grafts, they close by the time the patient is brought in from the operation theater to the post-operative ward. And all that, the patient cannot detect chest pain. It is thought of as an, the pain of thoracotomy. ECGs are hardly taken. CPKMBs are hardly done. So it goes as unrecognized infarcts, only to sometime manifest as heart failure later. And echo is done only at the end of 3 to 4 days, where you find the patient has LV dysfunction, which was not there before. And that is also taken under shelter. There's a post-bypass phenomena. There's a paradoxical motion of the septum and things like that. So one must realize that we are fighting a battle with the surgeons, and the surgeons' faults are going undetected. The problems are going undetected. And for every 1% of thrombus or things like that, we are penalized. So this is a graph I think all of us should keep in our computer and keep repeating it in front of in the surgical meetings, because this is what is hard data. Next slide. Now, a typical SVG graft has disease process. In the first month, there is intimal hyperplasia. At 1 to 7 years, there is a buildup of atherosclerosis with superimposed thrombus. At 7 to 10 years, there is an occlusion. Next slide. Now, this progression of disease, it correlates with the initial diameter stenosis. What means to say is that if the initial lesion is less than 30%, then your progression of disease is less. But once there is a lesion formation, a borderline lesion, it progresses very fast. Now, that is why whenever you find that there is a borderline disease, one must investigate the patient, or whenever there is a suspicion of borderline disease, one must investigate the patient and treat them fast, because SVG graft disease is not like native coronary disease. SVG graft disease progresses very fast. Next slide. Now, what are the particles that are seen? If you see on the Y graph is the particle size, 17 microns, 56, 96, 214, 767, and the percentage. a lot of the graft, the particles are actually of much lesser microns than the much bigger plaques that what we see. That is why what you see visually, that if there is no thrombus in the graft, it doesn't mean that it's not there, or atheroemboli, when there's no, you don't feel that there's no embolization. So there's a significant number of emboli which are actually microemboli which cause the problems. Next slide. Now what are the CPKMB rise? Especially the prevalence and the 1-year mortality. Why it is important to prevent this microemboli? If you see normal CPKMB, 1 to 5 rise, more than 5 rise, you see the prevalence, 53% not much, 32% some rise in CPKMB, 15% there is significant rise. And what happens to the mortality? From 4.1%, 4.8%, 6.5% to 11.7%. So 1-year mortality is directly correlates when there is a CPK bump. So this is what we would like to prevent at the end of 1 year. Next slide. What are the devices that we have? One is the distal occlusion device, other is the distal filter, and third is the proximal occlusion device. Next slide. What are the advantages and disadvantages of the balloon devices? It's easy to cross the lesion, more steerable and lower profile than filter wires, compatible with devices. You can aspirate both large and small particles. It reliably traps the debris, and there is easy device retrieval, and it also entraps the soluble mediators till you are ready to aspirate out. What are the disadvantages? You cannot use on the distal lesions because you need a significant space for the balloon to lodge. There is no antegrade flow during the time of the procedure. Sometimes you may not be able to see the lesion as well. 5 to 8% are intolerant because when you occlude the balloon and you take a 15-20 minute inflation time, then some patient may not tolerate that occlusion. Then sometimes at the inflation of the balloon, there may be a balloon injury, and they're not as steerable as the PTCA wires. It's difficult to image during the procedure, so you need to have a mental picture and probably use a much longer stent in this situation because you cannot see the lesion, and so you have a problem there. So you need to have longer stents. Next slide. This is the system which is commonly used. It's user friendly. The guide wire. Next slide. And this is a safer trial. This was because of the application of the guide wire system. This is how it's used, where there is a native vessel, and then the balloon is inflated here, the lesion is stented, and later on the vessel is aspirated. Next slide. Then export catheter is used to remove the emboli and thrombus with the slow distal to the proximal pullback, and then the guard wire balloon is deflated. Now what is the data of this guard wire at 30-day mortality with protection and without protection? This was the safer trial which was done, and this is the MACE, 30-day MACE, all myocardial infarction, QVMI, non-QVMI, no reflow phenomena. What has happened? Percentage MACE. This is with protection, the red, and the blue is without protection. So with protection, the MACE, 30-day MACE is 9.6 versus 16.5. All MI is 8.6 versus 14.7. QVMI, not much different. Non-QMI, again significant difference, 7.4 to 13.7, and no reflow, 3.2 to 8.3. 8.3 is like 1 out of 10 patients not having a reflow phenomena. You can understand the guard wire, how it helps. Next slide. Now this is a prediction model where the plaque volume dictates the results. So if there's a more plaque volume, then you get worse results, and that is where the guard wire helps most. So whenever the plaque volume is high, when the lesion is longer, there's a big mass which you are able to see, then I think it's more imperative that you use a protection device. Next slide. Now infarct size, again the guard wire and the control. This is actually a paradox where what they found that the infarct size was not much different in these two. Next slide. What are the guard wire tips and tricks? 7 French system can increase the backup support. Try to use 7 French. Then do a dummy inflation out of the body so that you inflate and deflate the balloon. You know that the system is working properly. If there's a tortuosity, proximal or distal, may need to cross with the buddy wire. So if there's a tortuosity, don't use the guard wire primarily, use a buddy wire, and that will help you. Inflate at least 30 mm distal to the lesion because you need space. and then inflate at a location where the reference diameter is steady. Diameter does not apply to the vessel size, and also test to verify the graft occlusion. Then work fast but keep the device in the fixed position and flush aspiration system and use for distal delivery of vasodilator. So there are some of the steps which you need to take to have a good result. Next slide. Now these are the filter based systems. Again, deploy insertion of the filter based device. This is the stent deployment, and then the PDCS stent, and then there's a retrieval. Next slide. That was the concept. What are the advantages? It preserves the antegrade flow. So you can see what's happening to the lesion, assess the lesion length. Then contrast imaging is possible throughout the procedure. It is much simpler to use and user friendly. The disadvantage, it may not capture all the debris. Difficult to evaluate the retrieval of debris during the procedure. Filters may clog. Sometimes there may be a clogging of the filter. So you might have to come out with this filter and again put a new filter, because if it gets clogged, then when the whole filter is filled with the debris, then you need to change the filter. Then delivery catheters may cause embolization before the filter deployment, and retrieval sheath may snag on the stents. So it's very important that you use the sheath, keep the filter in place, push the sheath right through, and so that the filter is entrapped in the sheath, and then pull back the sheath. Don't try to pull, partially entrapped filter in the sheath backward, because it may snag into the stent. So it's always better to take. That is the only problem which you can have, because otherwise a user-friendly device. So be careful and keep it distally and sheath it properly before you take out. Spend a little time at that point. Next slide. Now these are the typical extractions of what we get in the filter device. Next slide. Now this is the filter wire EZ system. There is a suspension arm. This is a suspension arm which conforms the filter to the curvature of the vessel, because not all the vessels may be circular. If they have oval vessels, then at least there's a reasonable apposition of the filter. Now it is a 3.2 profile. It has a redesigned delivery sheath so that the sheath will start from here and entrap the whole filter wire much easily. And there's a retooled nose cone so that it is a much smaller shaft size. Next slide. Embolic protection again reduces the 30-day maze. Safer trial which used the filter also showed that there's a 42% reduction in this, with the guard wire, and also with the filter system also there's a 11.6 versus 9.9. So not much to choose in terms of data. Don't think that balloon occlusion is superior or filter is superior. You almost get similar results. So it is more user friendly. The only point is sometimes it may snag, so you need to be careful of that. Next slide. Again, embolic protection with safer trial at the CPKMB rise 14.7 with the guard wire, and here it's 10 and 9, so not much different. Next slide. So head-to-head comparison, there was no significant difference between any of those devices used. Next slide. Now what are the tips and tricks? Use 7 French again. Whenever you're planning an SVG and whenever you're using an embolic protection device, use a 7 French system. Prep and flush thoroughly. Fix the torque on the wire as close to the Y connector as possible, because sometimes it may get twisted at the point. Then steer the wire and advance end block both the wire and the filter. And if there is a tortuosity, again use a buddy wire. Deploy at least 30 millimeters. So you need some space, the landing zone. It's called as a landing zone. And then test 2 orthogonal views to verify the opposition. So inject contrast, see whether the vessel wall is very nicely opposed. Otherwise you need to push a little further where the vessel wall is slightly lesser in size, so they get proper opposition. This is another important step. If you take a 3 millimeter filter and put in a 3.5 vessel, then you're not getting a good opposition. So you check in both the views, and then if you find that is the situation, then you push the filter a little more distally, and you know that the vessel is naturally tapering, so it will ultimately end up in a point where you'll properly oppose the filter against the vessel wall. Then keep it fixed during the catheter. So just like somebody should be holding that wire and not allow it to move either way. And typically retrieve by advancing the retrieval system over the filter. Do not pull the filter. Always sheath the filter. Keep it distally, sheath the filter. Don't try to pull the filter. That's an important step. Next. This is another EV Spider distal filter system. and retrieval is easier in this. This is made of nitinol, and then pore size is 60 to 100 micrometer, and again it's either a 6 French or a 7 French guide compatible, available as 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So it can be used either for the coronary or for the carotid, as the case may be. But the only thing is, with this, the landing zone is slightly longer. It's 40 millimeter. So when you use an EV3 spider, you need to have a slightly longer landing zone. And then recovery catheter required for capture and removal. As you know, the recovery catheter is attached. The blue one is the recovery catheter segment that usually sheets quite easily. Next slide. This is again the spider results: 30-day MACE, MI, Q-wave MI, non-QMI, death, and TVR. So fairly good, results. Next slide. What is the lesion eligibility? Some of the lesions are eligible for proximal protection only. When you don't have a good landing zone, when you don't have a good distal, landing zone, sometimes they are only eligible for proximal protection. Then some lesions are eligible for either proximal or distal protection, and then some lesions are only for distal protection, and some of them are actually ineligible for embolic protection at all. That may be when there is excessive proximal tortuosity or there is a calcification. Next slide. Proximal embolic protection devices, advantages: protects the myocardium during the wire crossing also. Wire of choice is 0.014. Contrast suspension is used for lesion visualization. So when you're occluding the vessel, then you inject some contrast. That contrast will stay there, and that contrast can be used for visualization of the lesion. Again, you'll have to use a slightly longer stent. Always take a slightly longer stent because you don't want a geographic miss. And then use large lumen catheter can aspirate large thromboembolic loads. So if you have a ectatic artery, if you have a venous graft which has a fairly proximal large debris, some of these are better. This system is better. Disadvantages: no antegrade flow. Again, myocardial ischemia during the procedure, more complex to use and cannot use with the ostial or proximal disease. Next. This is how it works. Next slide. This is the Proxys system. Next slide. Proximal, medial, and then distal segment. Most of the lesion in the mid segment is always better that you use this device for the mid segment disease more often. Next slide. This is the PREPARE study with this Proxys system. Immediate ST resolution 73 versus 63%. And then next slide. What are the tips and tricks? Advance the Proxys device in the target vessel proximal to the lesion, at least 20. Here we call it a takeoff zone. For the filter as well as the balloon, you have a landing zone. For the proximal device, you have a takeoff zone. Takeoff zone should be 20 millimeters at least. And so that's why you cannot use for very proximal lesions and ostial lesions. And then Proxys balloon is inflated to block the flow. Guide wire is advanced. Stent and balloon is advanced. Note the catheter length. And vessel is aspirated to remove, and then the proximal balloon is deflated with restoring the flow. These are the steps. Next slide. We'll skip some of these slides. Let's go to the PDF presentation. So I think in conclusion, what I can say is choose a system which you are familiar and comfortable with, but keep all the systems in the lab. One of the persons should be dedicated to this embolic protection device in the lab, one of the consultants, and he can be always abreast of what is happening and keep in mind. And what happens is that familiarity with all the devices will help. So because it's a teamwork, keep one person in charge so that he has all the filters available, he's updated with the data, and he uses whenever required. Gentle handling and 2B3 agents are the seed. Well, don't use try to rotate the wire or use a G balloon, try to push or use large shaft balloons across the lesion, because that's the one when you can dislodge the thromboemboli. And that is a seat belt. As I said, EPS or the embolic protection systems are the airbags. Now we can also use aspiration catheters nowadays, because they are now low French size, the newer ones, and you can actually aspirate large material from that. Now membrane covered stent or the MGuard, which is coming in, which is being available with good data. Some of these devices you may actually forget when you need not use the protection systems. You directly use an M-Guard stent. This is a filter, this is a micro mesh which covers the stent. Just go put the wire, go in with the stent which is a low profile, inflate the stent, the whole debris is entrapped, and then you come out. So you don't need any of these systems to prevent distal embolization that is fast coming into the market. Presently, only bare metal stent is available with the micro mesh, but I think they are going to introduce even drug-eluting stent in the future. So that's how the future is going to be. Maybe 5 years from now, we may not be using any of these filter or proxies devices. We will be using membrane-covered stents or the polymer-covered stents, which are a 1 fiber thick, does not cause any problem. The data shows the restenosis rate is not much different, and there's absolutely no reflow phenomena. Early pickup and treatment is essential because whenever we know that the natural history, 77% of the disease, the grafts are diseased at the end of 10 years. So you must tell your patient at bypass surgery, if he's had a venous graft, or you're seeing the patient at around 5 years, that 8 to 10 years from now, at the end of the 8 to 10 years, he should be prepared for a thorough evaluation, because if you pick up early, then you can treat these grafts and keep them patent and avoid a redo. Next slide, please. Thank you very much.